The alarm started screaming at 0600 hours. Hana dropped her coffee cup and ran to the observation window. Outside, against the black canvas of space, 12 massive warships surrounded Haven Station like predators circling wounded prey. "This is not a drill." Commander Yura's voice crackled through every speaker in the station. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill." Hana's hands shook as she grabbed her emergency kit. She was a xenobiologist, not a soldier. She studied alien plants and bacteria, not weapons and war. But today, none of that mattered. Today, the Vrexian Dominion had come to Haven Station. The station housed over 4,000 souls from 12 different species. It was supposed to be neutral ground, a place where different races could meet and trade without fear. The Vrexians did not care about such things. They wanted slaves, and Haven Station was far from any military protection. Tejo found Hana in the corridor. He wore his security uniform, and his face was calm, despite the chaos around them. "Come with me," he said. "We are gathering all non-combatants in the central core." "How bad is it?" Hana asked as they ran through the curving hallways. "Bad," Tejo admitted. "The station has only basic defensive guns. The Vrexians have 12 warships. We sent distress signals, but the nearest Allied fleet is 3 weeks away." 3 weeks. Hana felt her stomach drop. They would not last 3 hours against that kind of firepower. In the central meeting hall, thousands of frightened aliens crowded together. Hana saw Delphinians with their blue skin, tall Korathi with their 4 arms, small Pixen barely reaching her waist. Somewhere in the crowd were the other 29 humans who called Haven Station home. 30 humans among thousands. Commander Yura stood on the platform, her Delphinian features tight with worry. "The Vrexians have demanded our surrender," she announced. "They promise to spare our lives if we submit to slavery. If we refuse, they will destroy the station." Angry voices erupted. Some aliens shouted for resistance. Others begged to surrender. Fear filled the air like smoke. Tejo stepped forward. "We fight," he said simply. His voice was not loud, but something in his tone made people listen. "Every hour we hold them is another hour for help to reach us. We make them pay for every meter they take." Yura looked at the human security officer. "You know help will not arrive in time." "Maybe not," Tejo said. "But we de free, or we do not de at all." The first explosion rocked the station 20 minutes later. Hana was in the medical bay, helping Nari set up emergency treatment areas. The human medical officer worked quickly, preparing for casualties that would surely come. "Ever treated a Vrexian injury?" Nari asked, without looking up. "In school," Hana replied. "Never in real life. You will learn today." The station's defensive guns fired back, but it was like throwing stones at mountains. The Vrexian ships barely slowed. Breaching pods slammed into the outer ring, like meteors. Hana watched the security feeds as armored Vrexian soldiers poured into the station. Tejo organized the defenders with remarkable calm. Humans fought alongside aliens who had never held weapons before. The Vrexians were professional soldiers with advanced armor and weapons. The defenders had security pistols and desperation. The outer ring fell in 2 hours. Tejo's teams retreated in good order, sealing blast doors behind them. Every door the Vrexians had to cut through bought precious minutes. Every barricade cost them time and ammunition. Hana ran through the corridors, evacuating the injured to the core. She saw things that would haunt her dreams. A Korathi warrior holding a barricade alone, while others escaped. A young Pixen medic treating the wounded under fire. A human engineer named Sunho, working frantically to keep the life support systems running as explosions shook the walls. "The Vrexians are not in a hurry," Sunho told her as he repaired a damaged panel. His hands moved with practiced efficiency despite the danger. "They are playing with us. They want us to feel hopeless before the end." "Are we?" Hana asked quietly. "Hopeless," Sunho smiled sadly. We are still breathing. That means there is still hope. By nightfall, as much as there was night in space, the Vrexians controlled half the station. They broadcast messages through the communication systems, promising mercy to those who surrendered. They described in detail what life in their labor colonies would be like. Some aliens began to believe surrender was the better option. Tejo called a meeting of the remaining defenders. 200 fighters from a dozen species stood before him. They were exhausted, wounded, and running low on ammunition. Some had lost friends or family already. "I will not lie to you," Tejo said. "The math is simple. We cannot win this fight. No rescue is coming in time." He paused, looking at each face. "But we can decide how our story ends. We can give up and hope the Vrexians show mercy. Or we can make them remember Haven Station. We can make them pay such a price that they think twice before attacking another peaceful station." A Delphinian soldier stood. "What is the point of dying for pride? Not for pride," Tejo replied. "For everyone who comes after us. The Vrexians are testing the frontier. If we fall easily, they will attack more stations, more worlds, more families. But if we make them bleed, if we show them that peaceful people will fight when cornered, maybe we save others." Hana watched from the medical bay door. She was not a fighter, but she understood what Tejo was doing. He was giving them meaning. He was transforming their deaths from tragedy into purpose. The vote was unanimous. They would fight. The second night was worse than the first. The Vrexians pushed hard, and the defenders gave ground, meter by meter. Sunho performed miracles with the station's failing systems, keeping life support running even as sections vented to space. Nari worked without sleep, her hands covered in blood from a dozen different species. Hana assisted her, learning to tell the difference between critical injuries and minor wounds for aliens she had only studied in books. Tejo was everywhere at once, moving from barricade to barricade, encouraging the defenders. He took risks that made Hana's heart stop, but he seemed to bear a charmed life. Bullets passed through spaces he had just vacated. Explosions caught him at the edge of their blast radius. On the third day, Commander Yura made a final broadcast. Her voice was steady despite the plasma burns on her arms and the exhaustion in her eyes. "To anyone receiving this transmission," she said, "Haven Station has fallen. The Vrexian Dominion has overwhelmed our defenses. We are 300 souls, making our last stand in the central core. We expect no rescue. We ask only that our resistance be remembered, that the galaxy knows we did not surrender. We stood together, human and alien, friend and stranger, and we chose freedom over chains. May our sacrifice mean something." Hana listened to the broadcast and felt tears on her cheeks. She looked around the medical bay, at the wounded from so many different worlds. They had come to Haven Station, seeking peace and prosperity. Instead, they found war. The Vrexians began their final assault as the broadcast ended. This time, they were not playing. They wanted to finish it. Hana picked up a plasma cutter meant for emergency rescues and walked toward the barricades. If this was the end, she would face it standing. Behind her, the stars watched in cold silence. Help was not coming. They were alone. The central core of Haven Station had become a fortress of desperation. 300 defenders from 12 different species crowded into the innermost section of the station. The air smelled of sweat, blood, and fear. Every few minutes, another explosion would shake the walls, reminding them that the Vrexians were coming. Tejo stood at the main barricade, checking his weapon. He had maybe 30 rounds left. Around him, other defenders were in similar condition. Some had no ammunition at all and carried metal pipes or tools as weapons. They would make poor clubs against Vrexian battle armor. "They are cutting through the outer door," reported a Karathi soldier. Her forearms held a salvaged Vrexian rifle, taken from an enemy who would need it no more. Tejo nodded. 20 minutes. He had bought his people 3 days. 3 days of holding an impossible position against impossible odds. 3 days of watching good people die for every meter of corridor. He was proud of that, even if pride would not save them. In the medical section, Nari worked on a wounded Delphinian. The injury was beyond her ability to treat properly, but she tried anyway. Giving up meant watching him die, and she was not ready for that. Not yet. Hana brought her more supplies from their dwindling stocks. "We are running out of everything," she said quietly. "Bandages, medicine, even water. Then we make do with what we have," Nari replied without looking up from her patient. Her hands were steady despite 4 days without real sleep. "How are you holding up?" "There. 80. There. 3. There. 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 There." Hana laughed bitterly. "I am a biologist. I should be studying alien flowers, not treating war wounds. We all should be doing something else," Nari said. "But here we are." The Delphinian died despite Nari's efforts. They added his body to the others in the cold storage section. There were too many bodies now. Too many friends who would never see another sunrise. Sunho found Taeho at the barricade. The engineer looked exhausted, his face smudged with grease and burn marks. "I need to talk to you," he said. They moved to a quiet corner. Sunho pulled up a datapad showing the station's systems. "Life support is failing. Life support is failing," he explained. "The Vrexians have damaged too many critical systems. Even if they stopped attacking right now, we would run out of air in 12 hours. Taeho absorbed this information calmly. "Can you fix it?" "Maybe. There is a junction point in Section 7. If I can reach it and reroute power from the damaged sections, I might buy us another day or two." Sunho paused. "Section 7 is in Vrexian territory. I would need to go alone and move quietly." "Too dangerous," Taeho said immediately. "Everything is dangerous now," Sunho replied with a tired smile. "But this might actually help. Besides, what are they going to do? Kill me? I am dead already. We all are." Taeho wanted to argue, but he knew Sunho was right. They were all dead. The only question was how long they could delay the inevitable. "When do you leave?" "Now, while the Vrexians are focused on the barricades." Sunho clasped Taeho's shoulder. "If I do not come back, make sure my wife knows I was thinking of her at the end." "Your wife is back on Earth?" "Yes, safe. That is all that matters." Sunho smiled one last time, then disappeared into the maintenance tunnels. Hana discovered something troubling while reviewing the station's sensor logs. She brought her findings to Commander Yura, who was coordinating the defense from a makeshift command center. "The Vrexians are not just attacking us," Hana explained, showing Yura the data. "Look at their ship movements. They are setting up a permanent base in this sector." Yura studied the information, her expression darkening. "They are preparing for a larger invasion. Haven Station was just the first target. If they succeed here, they will move on to other stations, other colonies. This is not a raid. This is the beginning of a war." The implications settled over them like a heavy blanket. Even if someone received their distress signal, even if help eventually came, it would be too late for more than just Haven Station. The Vrexians were positioning themselves to strike deep into neutral territory. "We need to get this information out," Yura said. "If we can warn others, an explosion cut her off." The outer door had been breached. The Vrexians were coming. Taeho rallied the defenders. They had one last barricade, one last position to hold. Behind them was the sanctuary where the non-combatants waited. Children, elderly, wounded. If this line fell, there was nowhere left to run. The Vrexians advanced slowly, methodically. They did not need to hurry. Their armor could withstand most of the defenders' weapons. Their numbers were overwhelming. This was not a battle. This was an execution. The defenders fired until their ammunition ran dry. Then they picked up whatever they could find and prepared for hand-to-hand combat. A Pixan, barely 4 feet tall, stood next to a Korathi warrior 8 feet high. A Delphinian scientist held a metal bar alongside a human security officer. Species that had been strangers a week ago now stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to die together. The fighting was brutal and short. The Vrexians pushed through the barricade like it was paper. Tejo found himself fighting hand to hand with a Vrexian soldier twice his size. He knew he could not win. But he fought anyway, because surrendering was not in his nature. A massive explosion threw everyone to the ground. For a moment, Tejo thought a bomb had gone off. Then, he realized the truth. Sunho had succeeded. The engineer had reached Section 7 and restored life support. But the explosion meant he had triggered the section's self-destruct to prevent the Vrexians from following him back. Sunho was gone. He had traded his life for 12 more hours of air. The explosion stunned the Vrexians enough for the defenders to fall back to the sanctuary entrance. Tejo sealed the final door, knowing it would only delay the inevitable. The cutting torches began immediately, glowing circles of heat that slowly ate through the metal. Inside the sanctuary, Hana stood with Nari and the other survivors. 300 had become 150. Half their number lay dead in the corridors outside. The remaining defenders were wounded, exhausted, and out of ammunition. Some aliens began to pray to their various gods. Others held their loved ones close. A few stared at the door with hollow eyes, waiting for the end. Tejo moved through the crowd, offering what comfort he could. He told them they had fought well. He told them they had given everything possible. He told them their sacrifice would be remembered. He did not believe the last part, but it seemed important to say it anyway. Hana found herself at the observation port, looking out at the stars. Somewhere, out there, people lived normal lives. They went to work, fell in love, raised children, never knowing about the desperate last stand happening at Haven Station. "I used to love the stars," she said to no one in particular. "I dreamed of exploring them, discovering new worlds, new life. Now I just see the spaces between them. All that darkness, all that distance. We are so very small and alone." Nari joined her at the window. "Sunho told me something once. He said humans have always been alone. We spent thousands of years on Earth, thinking we were the only intelligent life in the universe. We learned to hope, even when hope seemed foolish. And look where that got us," Hana replied bitterly. The cutting torches were halfway through the door now. Minutes remained, maybe 10 if they were lucky. Commander Yura stood before the survivors one last time. "I have no inspiring words," she said honestly. "We are about to die. But we die together. We die free. And we die knowing we did everything possible to resist tyranny. If there is any justice in this universe, that will mean something." The door was almost through. Tejo stood ready with his metal pipe. Beside him stood a dozen others, the last defenders. Everyone else huddled in the back of the sanctuary, holding each other, saying final goodbyes. Hana closed her eyes. She thought of Earth, of the garden where she had first fallen in love with biology. She thought of her family, safe in a world that would never know her fate. She thought of the stars and all the wonders she would never discover. The door began to glow white-hot. Any second now, it would fail. Then something impossible happened. The station's emergency systems activated. Alarms began to wail, but not from internal damage. The external sensors had detected something. Something big. Something moving impossibly fast. Hana ran to the sensor station, hardly daring to hope. She pulled up the external feed, her hands shaking so badly she could barely work the controls. There, on the screen, dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge, was a single ship. A warship. Dark and massive, moving with purpose through the void. And on its hull, in letters that seemed to glow with their own light. She read the words that would change everything. HTNS. Dauntless. A human ship, she whispered. A human warship. Impossible. The nearest human fleet was weeks away. This could not be real. But real or not, the ship was there. And it was not slowing down. It was coming straight for them. Engines blazing like a vengeful star. Help had arrived. The Vrexian commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his soldiers prepare to breach the final door. This had taken longer than expected, but the outcome was never in doubt. Haven Station would fall, and its population would serve the Dominion in the labor colonies. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "we are detecting unusual readings at the system's edge." The commander barely glanced at the display. "Asteroid? Comet?" "No, sir. It appears to be a ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel." Now the commander looked. A single ship, emerging from the void. "Identify it." The sensor officer worked his console, then froze. "Sir, it is registering as a human warship. HTNS. Dauntless. Dreadnought class." The commander laughed. "Impossible. Human military forces are weeks away. It must be a damaged civilian vessel, flying false colors." "Sir, the mass readings suggest otherwise. This ship is massive, and it is moving very fast." The commander felt the first stirring of unease. "Hail them. Demand they identify themselves and state their business." Before his communication officer could comply, every speaker on every Vrexian ship activated simultaneously. A calm female voice filled the silence, speaking in perfect galactic common. "Vrexian vessels, this is Captain Jisoo of the human-Terran Navy ship Dauntless. You are in violation of the Kepler Accords by attacking a neutral diplomatic station. Power down your weapons immediately and withdraw from this system, or we will interpret your continued hostility as a declaration of war against humanity and all allied species." The Vrexian commander stared at his screen. "One ship." The humans had sent one ship against his fleet of 12. "This is Commander Vrax of the Vrexian Dominion. Your presence here is noted, but meaningless. Withdraw immediately, or be destroyed with the station." Silence answered him. Then the human ship accelerated. Inside Haven Station's sanctuary, Hana watched the sensor feed with her heart pounding. The other survivors crowded around, hope and disbelief warring on their faces. "Is it real?" someone asked. "It is real," Hana confirmed. "A human warship. I do not know how it got here, but it is real." Tejo pushed through the crowd to see for himself. He had served in human security forces for 15 years. He knew the names of every major warship in the fleet. The Dauntless was supposed to be on deep patrol in the outer reaches, months away from this sector. "How?" he whispered. On the Vrexian flagship, the commander watched the human ship approach with growing concern. It was not slowing down. It was not taking an attack formation. It was simply coming straight at them at a speed that should have been impossible for a ship that size. "All ships, combat formation," he ordered. "Target that vessel and prepare to fire." His fleet moved into position. 12 warships against 1. The math was simple. The Dauntless opened fire first. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies for decades. The human ship did not slow, did not dodge. It came through the Vrexian formation, like a shark through a school of fish. Railgun rounds, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, struck 2 Vrexian cruisers before their crews even registered the attack. The ships simply came apart, their armor meaningless against that kind of kinetic energy. The remaining Vrexian ships opened fire. Missiles and plasma bolts filled the space between them and the human warship. The Dauntless's point defense systems activated, creating a web of light that vaporized incoming projectiles. Not one missile made it through. The human ship rolled, impossibly graceful for something so large, and fired again. Another Vrexian cruiser exploded, its reactor breached by a precision strike. Commander Vrax watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. All ships, scatter. Execute evasion pattern Gamma. Too late. The Dauntless was among them now, moving through three-dimensional space with an agility that defied physics. Its weapons found targets with mechanical precision. Every shot a kill. Every movement calculated. 5 Vrexian ships were now drifting hulks. The remaining 7 attempted to flee. The human warship let them run just long enough to give them hope, then destroyed their faster-than-light drives with surgical strikes. They would not be going anywhere. 8 minutes. The entire battle had lasted 8 minutes. Inside Haven Station, the defenders watched in stunned silence. Hana found she was crying, though she could not say exactly why. Relief, joy, disbelief, all mixed together until she could not separate one emotion from another. They came, Nari whispered. They actually came. Tejo activated the station's communication system with shaking hands. HTNS, Dauntless, this is Haven Station. We do not have words. Thank you. The same calm voice from before answered. Haven Station, this is Captain Jizu. Hold your position. We are deploying Marines to clear remaining hostile forces from your station. Medical teams will follow. You are safe now. Safe. The word felt strange. Hana had forgotten what safety felt like. Okarn. 9. Boarding pods launched from the Dauntless, burning through space toward the station. Inside the sanctuary, the Vrexian soldiers who had been cutting through the door suddenly received orders to withdraw. Their commander was screaming at them to return to the ships immediately. They obeyed, abandoning their siege and running for their extraction points. But the human Marines were faster. The sounds of combat echoed through the station's corridors. But this time, it was different. This time, the defenders were not alone. Armored figures in human battle suits moved through the station with practiced efficiency, clearing sections with speed and precision that made the Vrexian assault look clumsy by comparison. Lieutenant Do-hyun led the 1st Marine Squad to reach the sanctuary. He was young, barely 30, but he moved with absolute confidence. Haven Station survivors. This is Human Marine Lieutenant Do-hyun. The station is secure. You can lower the barricades. Tejo did not move immediately. Part of him still could not believe this was real. Then Do-hyun's face appeared on a video screen, offering a tired smile beneath his helmet. Sir, we are here to help. You can trust us. Tejo opened the door. The Marines entered carefully, weapons ready but not threatening. They swept the sanctuary quickly, professionally. Then Do-hyun removed his helmet. Medical teams are on their way. How many wounded? Too many, Nari answered, stepping forward. And we are running low on supplies for non-human species. We brought supplies for everyone, Do-hyun assured her. Our medical officer, Minji, specializes in xenobiology. She can treat all of you. Within an hour, the station was fully secured. The remaining Vrexian soldiers had either fled to their damaged ships or surrendered. Human medical teams moved through the survivors, treating injuries with a level of competence that brought Hana to tears again. Medical Officer Minji found Nari working on a wounded Korathi. I am Minji, she said simply. Show me what you need. Tat. Together, the 2 human medical officers worked to save lives. Minji had supplies and equipment that Nari had only dreamed of. More importantly, she had fresh energy and steady hands. How did you get here? Hana asked a young Marine as he helped her move supplies. The nearest human fleet is weeks away, the Marine shrugged. The Dauntless was testing a new faster-than-light drive system. We were running a deep patrol when we picked up your distress signal. Captain Jisoo did not hesitate. She pushed the engines to maximum and here we are. 4 days, another Marine added. We covered 4 days of travel in less than 1. The engineers were crying, but the captain did not care. She just kept saying people needed help. Hana tried to imagine a captain who would risk her ship and crew like that for strangers. Is she always like this? The Marines exchanged glances and smiled. Captain Jisoo? Yes, always. Captain Jisoo herself came aboard the station 2 hours later. She was younger than Hana expected. Maybe 40. With calm eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore her uniform with quiet authority, moving through the station like she owned it. Commander Yura met her in the damaged command center. The Delphinian commander looked exhausted, her injuries hastily bandaged. Captain Jisoo, I do not know how to thank you. No thanks needed, Jisoo replied. We are sorry we could not arrive sooner. Sooner? Yura laughed bitterly. You arrived impossibly fast. We had given up hope. Jisoo's expression hardened. I need to see all data you have. On the Vrexian attack. Fleet movements. Communications. Everything. Hana brought forward her findings. They were not just attacking us. They are setting up a staging area. This was the beginning of a larger invasion. Jisoo studied the data carefully. Her calm expression did not change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. I see. Thank you for this information. It changes things. Changes how? Taiho asked. Jisoo looked at the survivors, at the damaged station, at the bodies being collected from the corridors. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but absolute. The Dauntless will remain in this sector. We are going to send a message to the Vrexian Dominion. We are going to show them exactly what happens when they attack peaceful people under human protection. Under human protection? Yura repeated. But Haven Station is neutral territory. Jisoo smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Not anymore. As of this moment, this station and this entire sector are under the protection of humanity. Anyone who wants to challenge that is welcome to try. Outside, the Dauntless hung in space like a guardian angel made of steel and fire. Its weapons were silent now, but everyone knew they could speak again at any moment. The siege of Haven Station was over. But for the Vrexian Dominion, something far worse had just begun. They had awakened humanity's wrath. The first night after the rescue felt strange. For the first time in days, the survivors of Haven Station could sleep without fear of death. But sleep did not come easily. Too many had lost friends. Too many had seen things they could never forget. Hana stood in the repaired observation deck, watching human engineers work on the station's damaged exterior. They moved with calm efficiency, their suits glowing against the darkness of space. The Dauntless hung nearby, its massive form a comfort now, rather than a threat. You should rest, Nari said, joining her at the window. The medical officer looked exhausted but satisfied. They had saved everyone who could be saved. The wounded were stable. The dying had been pulled back from the edge. I cannot stop thinking about Sunho, Hana admitted. He died buying us hours. If the Dauntless had arrived even a little bit later, but they did not, Nari said firmly. Do not torture yourself with what might have been. Sunho's sacrifice mattered. All of their sacrifices mattered. Down in the medical bay, Minji worked alongside Nari's exhausted staff. The human medical officer had brought supplies that seemed almost magical to those who had been making do with scraps. She moved between patients of different species with equal skill, asking questions, learning, adapting. How do you know so much about alien biology? A Delphinian nurse asked. Minji smiled. I studied for 10 years. Humans take xenobiology very seriously. We want to understand everyone we meet. She paused, checking a monitor. Also, I am very good at reading and learning fast. Lieutenant Do-hyun and his Marines had established a perimeter around the station. They were polite but thorough, checking everyone who came and went. The captured Vrexian soldiers were held in a sealed section under heavy guard. Taeho found Do-hyun reviewing security footage. You do not need to maintain such heavy security, he said. The threat is over. Do-hyun shook his head. Captain's orders. She says the Vrexians might try something stupid. We stay alert until the main fleet arrives. When will that be? 3 weeks, same as before. But now, you have us. Do-hyun grinned. One human warship might not sound like much, but I promise you, it is enough. Captain Jisoo called a meeting in the command center. She had invited Commander Yura, Taeho, Hana, and representatives from each species present on the station. The room was crowded with beings of different shapes and sizes, all looking at the human captain with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. Thank you all for coming, Jisoo began. I want to explain what happens next. First, repairs to Haven Station will continue. My engineering teams will work with yours to restore full functionality within 2 weeks. 2 weeks? A Korathi engineer interrupted. The damage is extensive. It will take months, not with human equipment and expertise, Jisoo replied calmly. Second, I have reviewed the data regarding Vrexian invasion plans. This is worse than we thought. They are positioning forces to strike multiple targets across neutral space. The room erupted in worried conversation. Jisoo waited for silence before continuing. I have sent all intelligence back to Earth. The human government is convening emergency sessions with allied species. We expect a full response within days. Until then, the Dauntless will remain here as a deterrent. One ship cannot hold off an invasion, Yura said carefully. Jisoo's smile was cold. One ship just destroyed a Vrexian strike fleet in 8 minutes. I think they will think twice before sending more ships into this sector. Hana raised her hand hesitantly. Captain, may I ask a question? Of course. Why did you come? I mean, why did you risk your ship and crew for a station full of aliens? Your mission was a deep patrol, testing new technology. You could have just sent our distress signal ahead and continued your mission. The room went quiet. Everyone wanted to know the answer to this question. Jisoo took a moment before responding. When I joined the Navy, I took an oath. I swore to protect the innocent and defend the helpless. That oath did not specify humans only. When we received your distress signal, I had a choice. I could follow protocol, report it, and continue my mission, or I could do what was right. She looked around the room. For me, it was not really a choice at all. A young Pixan spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. But you risked your crew, your ship, everything. Yes, Jisoo agreed. And I would do it again. Every member of my crew volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. Not one of them questioned the decision to come here. She paused. You want to know what makes humans different? We remember what it was like to be alone. We spent thousands of years on our planet, thinking we were the only intelligent life in the universe. We do not ever want anyone else to feel that kind of loneliness. When someone calls for help, we answer. The room remained silent, processing this. 3 days later, the captured Vrexian commander was brought before an improvised council. His name was Vrax, and he showed no remorse for the attack. He stood in chains, surrounded by guards, and sneered at his captors. This changes nothing, he said. The Dominion will return. Stronger, more prepared. You cannot stop us. Jisoo stood before him, her expression neutral. You attacked a neutral station. You murdered innocents. You intended to enslave thousands. Why? Because we can, Vrax replied simply. The weak exist to serve the strong. This is the natural order. I see. Jisoo gestured, and a holographic display activated. It showed the battle, from start to finish. 12 Vrexian ships being systematically destroyed by the Dauntless. Vrax watched, his confidence wavering. You will be returned to your empire, Jisoo continued. You will carry a message. Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that Haven Station and this entire sector are now under human protection. Tell them that any further aggression will be met with overwhelming force. One ship, Vrax spat. You have one ship. The Dominion has thousands. Then send thousands, Jisoo replied calmly. Send your entire fleet. Come test humanity's resolve. We will be waiting. There was something in her voice that made Vrax falter. This was not bravado. This was absolute certainty. Why do you care about these aliens? He asked, genuinely confused. What do you gain from protecting them? Jisoo considered the question. We gain friends. We gain allies. We gain a galaxy where people do not have to live in fear of predators like you. And maybe, just maybe, we gain the right to look at ourselves in the mirror and like what we see. Vrax was placed on a damaged Vrexian ship with enough supplies to reach his territory. As his ship limped away, Taeho stood with Jisoo on the Dauntless's bridge. Do you think he will deliver the message? Taeho asked. Oh yes, Jisoo replied. He will tell them everything. The Vrexians respect strength. We just showed them strength they cannot match. They will think very carefully before challenging us again. And if they do, come? Jisoo looked at him. Then we will be ready. The main fleet is already being repositioned. Within a month, there will be 20 human warships in this sector. Within 6 months, we will have a permanent base here. Taeho shook his head in wonder. This will change everything. The balance of power in this region. The political alliances. Good, Jisoo said. It is time for a change. The strong have bullied the weak for too long. Humanity is drawing a line. No more. Axis team. Cross to com. With common-headed clommed. Axis to com. Wide. YD8. YDH pass. YD8. Good. Over the next 2 weeks, Haven Station transformed. Human engineers worked miracles, repairing damage that should have taken months. They did not just fix things, they improved them. New defensive systems were installed, better sensors, upgraded life support. Hana worked with a human scientist named Boram who was fascinated by her biological research. They spent hours discussing xenobiology, comparing notes, sharing discoveries. For the first time in days, Hana remembered why she loved science. Your work is impressive, Boram told her. Have you considered presenting it at the Pan-Species Scientific Conference on Earth? Earth? Hana laughed. I am just a station researcher. They would never accept me. They would if I recommended you. Boram said seriously. Your insights into cross-species symbiosis are groundbreaking. You deserve a larger audience. Genning Telsiv leader. Mart of the Port Kenster Sing. Ginning Telsiv leader Sing. Ginning Telsiv leader Sing. Nari and Minji had become close friends, trading medical techniques and stories. They discovered they had similar philosophies about healthcare. Treat the patient, not just the illness. See the person, not just the injury. You should visit Earth, Minji suggested. Our medical academy would love to have you as a guest lecturer. Maybe someday, Nari replied. If this whole incident has taught me anything, it is that life is short. We should take opportunities when they come. Commander Yura stood with Captain Jisoo in the repaired command center. Your people have done in 2 weeks what would have taken us 6 months. How can we ever repay this? How can we ever repay this? No repayment necessary, Jisoo said. Just remember this moment. Remember that when things seemed darkest, help came. And when you see others in need, be the help that comes. Ships began arriving from other systems. Representatives from a dozen species came to Haven Station, wanting to meet the humans who had saved it. They brought offers of trade, alliance, friendship. Humanity had announced itself to this region of space not with conquest, but with salvation, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 weeks after the siege, the human fleet arrived. 15 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the system's star. They were beautiful and terrible, symbols of humanity's power and commitment. Hana watched from the observation deck as the fleet took up positions around Haven Station. Each ship was larger than the Dauntless, and together, they represented enough firepower to level a planet. But they were not here to destroy. They were here to protect. Admiral Junho came aboard Haven Station with proper ceremony. He was older than Captain Jisoo, with gray in his hair and medals on his chest that spoke of long service. But when he met with Jisoo in private, his first words were simple. "You did well, Captain. Very well." Jisoo stood at attention. "We did what was necessary, Admiral. You risked your ship and crew on a rescue mission that was not part of your assignment. Some admirals would discipline you for that." Junho smiled. "I am not one of them. What you did here has changed the entire political landscape of this sector. The Vrexian Empire has withdrawn their invasion forces. They are requesting peace talks." "Because of one battle?" Jisoo asked, surprised. "Because you showed them something they did not believe possible. You showed them that humanity will cross any distance, take any risk, to protect the innocent. That kind of commitment cannot be faked, and it cannot be fought." Junho looked out the window at the station. "How many did you save?" 243 souls of various species. "We lost over 1,000 before we arrived." Junho's expression saddened. "Too many. But it could have been worse. It would have been worse if not for you." News of the rescue spread across the galaxy. Ships from dozens of species arrived at Haven Station, bringing delegations, reporters, and simple curiosity seekers who wanted to see the place where humanity had made its stand. Taeho found himself giving interviews to alien journalists, who asked the same questions over and over. What were the humans like? How did they fight? Why did they come? "They came because we needed them," he always answered. "That is what humans do." A memorial service was held for those who died defending the station. Representatives from every species present stood together, sharing grief and remembrance. Sunho's name was carved into a monument alongside hundreds of others. Heroes, all of them. Nari read a prepared statement, her voice steady despite her tears. "They died so that others might live. They died, believing no help would come. But help did come, and their sacrifice was not in vain. We honor them by living, by building, by making sure their deaths meant something." Captain Jisoo placed a human flag on the monument, alongside flags from 11 other species. "We may have arrived too late to save them all," she said quietly. "But we will never forget them. And we will make sure no one else has to die like this. No more stations will fall while humanity draws breath." The ceremony ended with a moment of silence. Thousands of beings, from dozens of worlds, stood together, united in grief and gratitude. After the ceremony, an elderly alien approached Hana. He was a historian from a species called the Entari, known for their long memories and careful records. His skin was pale blue, and his eyes held the weight of centuries. "I have studied many species in my long life," he said to her. "I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I have seen empires built on conquest and greed. But you, humans, are different." "How so?" Hana asked. "Most species expand for resources, for territory, for glory. They take what they can and justify it, however they must." The old Entari looked up at the stars visible through the observation window. "But humans expand to explore, to learn, to help. You traveled into the darkness not to conquer, but to answer when someone called. This is rare. This is precious." "We are not perfect," Hana said. "We have our own history of war and cruelty." "All species do," the historian replied. "But you learned from it. You chose to be better. That is what matters." Political changes came quickly. Haven Station became a formal protectorate of humanity, but with complete autonomy for its residents. Other stations and colonies requested similar arrangements. Within a month, humanity had defensive pacts with 30 different species. The Vrexian Empire, humbled by their defeat, agreed to peace negotiations. They withdrew from all disputed territories and released thousands of slaves. It was not enough, but it was a beginning. Taeho was offered a position as the new chief of security for Haven Station. He accepted, knowing the work was far from over. The station would need to be rebuilt. Not just physically, but emotionally. People needed to feel safe again. Hana received an invitation to join the Pan-Species Research Institute on Earth. It was her dream opportunity. But she hesitated. "I feel like I should stay here," she told Nari. "Help rebuild. The station will rebuild with or without you," Nari said. "But your research could help millions. Go to Earth. Make discoveries. Show the galaxy what you can do." She smiled. "Besides, I will be there too." They offered me a position at the Earth Medical Academy. So they went together, two survivors seeking a new beginning among the stars. On the day before the Dauntless departed, Taeho stood with Captain Jisoo on the repaired observation deck. The human warship would return to its patrol, though with a larger area to cover now. New ships would take its place, guardians watching over Haven Station and the surrounding sector. "We thought we were alone," Taeho said quietly. "We sent that distress signal without real hope. We believed no one cared enough to come." Jisoo looked at him, her expression serious. "Humanity spent thousands of years alone on Earth, wondering if anyone else was out there. We looked up at the stars and dreamed of meeting other intelligent beings. Now that we have found you, we have made ourselves a promise." "What promise?" "That no one will ever face the darkness alone. Not while we exist. Not while we have the power to help." She turned back to the window, watching the stars. "We remember what it felt like to be alone. We will not let others experience that fear." Taeho felt something tight in his chest loosen. "You really mean that? With everything we are?" Jisoo confirmed. The next day, the Dauntless departed. But it left behind something more valuable than weapons or supplies. It left behind hope. Months passed. Haven Station thrived under its new protection. Trade increased. Populations grew. Species that had never trusted each other learned to work together, united by their shared experience of survival. Hana stood in her new laboratory on Earth, looking at samples from a dozen different worlds. She was working on a cure for a disease that affected 3 species. Her research partner was a Delphinian scientist who had survived the siege. Together, they were making breakthroughs that would save lives across the galaxy. She received a message from Taeho. Haven Station was hosting its first anniversary memorial for those who died in the siege. Would she come? Of course she would. The memorial was attended by thousands. Survivors from the siege, families of the fallen, representatives from 50 different species, human military officers in dress uniforms, all gathered to remember and honor. A new monument had been erected in the station's central plaza. It showed figures from different species standing together, defending against the darkness. At the base were inscribed words in 100 different languages, all saying the same thing. They believed no help would arrive. But humanity heard their call. Taeho gave a speech, his voice carrying across the plaza. "1 year ago, we faced annihilation. We stood against impossible odds, with nothing but courage and hope. We lost many. We mourned many. But we survived because someone heard our call and answered." He paused, looking at the crowd. "Today, this station is more than just a diplomatic outpost. It is a symbol that in this vast, dark universe, no one is truly alone. That when you call for help, someone will answer. That the strong will protect. The weak, not exploit them." The crowd erupted in applause from those species that showed approval that way, and other forms of appreciation from those who did not. Captain Jisoo attended via hologram, her ship too far away to make the journey in person. But she sent a message that was read aloud. "To the survivors of Haven Station, you showed us what courage looks like. You held impossible odds and refused to surrender. You reminded us why we serve, why we patrol the darkness, why we answer every call for help. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for surviving. Thank you for proving that sentient beings can stand together against tyranny." After the ceremony, Hana walked through the rebuilt station. So much had changed. New sections had been added. Better defenses installed. The population had doubled. Children played in corridors that had run with blood a year ago. She found Nari at the medical bay, visiting old colleagues. They looked at each other and smiled, sharing memories only survivors could understand. "We made it," Nari said simply. "We did," Hana agreed. "Because humanity came." "No," Nari corrected gently. "We made it because we held out long enough for them to arrive. We made it because Sunho and others bought us time with their lives. We made it because we refused to give up." She paused. "Humanity answered our call." "Yes. But we had to survive long enough to be saved." Hana thought about that. She thought about Teiho organizing the defense, about Sunho dying to repair life support, about Nari treating the wounded without rest, about all the small acts of courage that had kept them alive. "You are right," she said. "We saved ourselves. Humanity just made sure it meant something." That night, Hana sent a message back to Earth. It would be published in journals, quoted in speeches, taught in schools. It would become famous across the galaxy, spoken by beings of 100 different species. "Today I learned what it means to be human. It means that when someone, somewhere in the darkness, calls out for help, you answer, no matter the distance, no matter the danger, no matter the cost. You answer because it is right, because it is necessary, because in a universe of infinite darkness, we must be each other's light." She paused, then added one more line. "And I learned that humanity will teach this lesson to anyone willing to learn it. The age of species standing alone is over. When you call, someone will answer. When you fall, someone will catch you. When you face the void, you will not face it alone." The message spread across the galaxy. More species requested human protection. More alliances formed. More cultures learned that strength meant helping others, not crushing them. Years later, historians would point to the siege of Haven Station as the turning point. The moment when humanity announced itself, not as conquerors, but as guardians. The moment when the strong chose to protect rather than prey upon the weak. But for those who were there, it was simpler than that. It was the moment when they called into the darkness, and someone answered. It was the moment when a human warship roared out of the void and changed everything. It was the moment when they learned they were not alone, and they never would be again.